now.
All right, welcome everybody to Wealth Wednesday. We're so excited to have all of you here. Great program lined up, great conversation. I think that's the business that we're in, stories and conversations and, examples. That's the word that we're in. You got to learn how to do that, and hopefully have a great example of that today. Here with my usual suspects of partners with the great Zach and Kimberly Odie. And then also we got the great Tim O'Rourke going to be on here with us in a few minutes. And I believe we'll have Mauricio Garcia with us today as well. So got a lot to cover. I had a great meeting in Atlanta last night going over the system, getting into the basics. And today we're going to get into the fundamentals of what we're really all about from the client side. Never been more needed. What we do is the most needed thing for families. I think it gives people, you go look at why people are putting off getting married or why they're getting divorced or deciding whether or not to have children, how many children to have, where to live, where not to live. All that's just based on their pocketbook too many times. And they don't know all the options. And we're here to empower people. That's what we do. And it excites me so much. So let's get started today with the great Tim O'Rourke giving us an update of where we're at from a perspective. I think you got to have the right mentality. Look at this at a whole. I think if you're like me, sometimes you just want to come in there, your home and just get a book and get in the corner or watch Netflix 24/7 because you just don't want to pay attention to what's going on in the world because it's just craziness. But that's not the way we can live. And so we got to be ready, be prepared, be able to go out and understand what's happening. So Tim, give us an update, give us some good news, and tell us what else is going on in the world today.
All right. Thank you all. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the exciting life that we live, because let me tell you, there's some exciting stuff going on here today. Just turn on the news anytime now, and there's always something interesting going on. But what I like about it is this goes right into what we do. We focus on recruiting. We're dream sellers. We don't sell insurance. We sell dreams. It just comes back to helping families, but underneath it all is what drives what we do. So what brings people to the table? That's what I want to talk about today. Some of the things. So what I talk about every week is the economics of what drives things. So today the producer price index came out today. It came out really hot. That's the wholesale prices. Basically, it's what wholesalers pay. And so it rose 0.7%, which was expected around 0.3%. So it came in really higher than, much higher than expected. So the markets flip-flopped this morning when I was watching it around 6:30 this morning. It released at 8:30. Market was looking pretty strong. Actually, the market's been very resilient overall. But when that came out, obviously that kind of turned the table pretty quick. The core PPI was 0.5%, which was also much higher. On a 12-month basis, it came out 3.4% annually, so much higher than what the market was expected. Now, here's the interesting thing. They always take out food and energy. So food came in at 2.4%, energy was 2.3%. While fresh and dried vegetables were up 49%. Now get your arms around that one. If anybody's gone to the grocery store and bought some fresh broccoli or something, think of the cost that the price of vegetables have gone up already. So when people go to the grocery store, that's the thing that always drives me crazy when I go over to Kroger or Publix or one of the stores. It's like, wow, sometimes you go through there and you fill your basket with just a few items and you're at $35 just going through the checkout counter. And that's what, when you look at the curve here, people, the lower income people are feeling the pain on this the most. And so today the Federal Reserve is going to release their decision whether to lower or increase even. Everybody's think they're going to lower interest rates today, but they're not going to do anything. If you see my comments every day, yesterday I said they're going to sit on their hands. They're not going to do anything. with that, especially the PPI coming out today, that's pretty much locks them in. They're not gonna data like this. Now, consider this, that this has nothing to do with the Iran war. So none of this data in this particular PPI reading has anything to do with the Iran war and the prices of oil. So crude oil continues to be the key factor going on right now. So extreme prices as we're seeing. I mean, if who's filled up lately? Has anybody filled their car up lately? It's a bit of a little of a shocker, right? Yeah. um, I don't know what your gas prices are in your neighborhood, but they're $5.59, I think, and now it's $5.20. I think Zach and Kimberly, you said you have diesels too. So it's
It's a
$100 now
beautiful
to fill up.
expense.
Yeah, I mean it's $100 for me now to fill up a car.
Yeah.
And it was $60, so it's $40 more to fill up my vehicle. So when you feel that kind of pain, I mean, I mean, that's a big increase from 60 to $100. So I feel that pain, and we're pretty good income earners, and that's still, think of somebody who's making $60,000 a year, 45, $50,000 a year. Those are the kind of people we're out recruiting. They're looking for a secondary income now. Uber drivers, people that are working a second job, maybe is waiting tables or something. So, when we get into what's really going on behind the scenes here because of this Iran war, crude oil continues to be a crisis situation now. Recently, Israel attacked Iran's largest gas producing facility in one of their provinces. And now Iran has come back. They think that they've pretty much wiped out their regime. Well, they haven't. They're coming back with these other, drone weapons. And these little drone weapons are pretty powerful little tools. For $2,000 or $3,000, they can go in and they can attack the oil refinery and blow it up because it's such a sensitive facility. They can go on into the Arab Emirates or Qatar, Saudi Arabia. And I've got friends over there. I used to, as you all know, I think I mentioned this before, I used to live in Saudi Arabia. I've got friends in Dhahran still that are over there and have connections, and they've gone in and blown up some of their wells and their sites, and they're attacking these facilities. So they're putting them out of commissions, basically, where they can't pump oil at some of these little wells all over that kind of that eastern province there, right up right there in Dhahran. And so they're taking those facilities offline. Citibank just came out with a forecast that they see Brent oil, which is right now at $110 a barrel, and WTI right now, I just looked it up, is around $99 a barrel. They see Brent going to 120, as much as $130 a barrel, which really affects Europe because that's their oil that they have to buy. It's going to drive prices up in Europe. And when you look at the trickle down effect through fertilizer, plastics, all these different effects cause an effect of different pricing. It's going to hit inflation next month, the following month after that. It's going to hit food. It's going to hit transportation. The effect of this is going to cause to the lower income people, which are the people that we're going to want to go out and recruit and help. So my message here today is think about the people out there on the front line. Also, look at the government shutdown that we're going through right now. I was watching the news, the local news here in Atlanta, and there's a 2.5 to 3 hour wait to get through the TSA at the Atlanta airport because there's a shortage of TSA workers because the government shut down. We also have, you know, anything to do with the government right now because of the partial shutdown. You got a lot of people laid off. There's cutbacks with Amazon, but cutbacks, there's jobs being eliminated because of AI. You know, these are opportunities for us. This is the greatest opportunity I think we have to go out and recruit people, tell our story. This is, I think, our greatest moment. This is our greatest opportunity to bring an opportunity to people and tell our story. So this is what we should be out doing more now than ever. Perfect your story, perfect what we do. Go out and tell it, because right now I'm giving you ammunition to really go out there and be a power broker and bring people in, because what we do is more needed now than ever before. So I hope you get the message today, and good luck out there, because this is the time to do it. This is the time to build teams. So with
You know,
that, Jody, back to you.
thank you, man. I tell you what, that was so exciting to me because, guys, to me, it amazes me that people spend all their life, trying to get away from corporate America, and you don't want to answer to a boss, but that most people, they do a better job working for a boss than they do for themselves. You know what? They don't hold themselves as accountable as you should, and this is our craft. You go look at someone that's a personal, you know, you go look at someone who's in baseball, or someone that's a great salesperson anywhere, or someone that's a plumber. They go spend all their time on their craft. They get better all the time. They do a great job. Zach's coached soccer for many years. How many hours did his kids practice? I mean, little kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 18. They're out practicing. Do you practice? How often do you practice your presentation? How often do you go through and read the materials we have? Come on, get better. Get great at what we're doing. I love that you did. That's what Tim said. And man, I feel good about that. If you're not world class at what you do, how can you expect to get world class results? So get better all the time. So great information, and take this information and have immediately become an immediate implementer. You will have that speed, will have you successful above all else. Go take good news to people faster. They'll associate you with that information. So great job, Tim. Thanks. All righty, let's get going to our part of the conversation. Zach and Kimberly and myself, and this is something that I'm very excited about, because we're going to talk about just understanding the process and the dangers of people only understanding one little piece of the puzzle. It's human nature is for us to gather a little information and make a major decision based on small amounts of information. We think we know all about different things just by little parts of it. That's just how we are. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, and Kimberly can lead us on this, is understanding in a process kind of where you're at. For example, if you're a racer, I ran the 400. That was my race. Okay, and if you ran that race, it was a grueling race. If you went out and started running full speed at the very beginning, you would not even make it halfway through that race. But if you knew what pace to go at, you could end up running the race and have a successful rate, a successful time. But if you're in the 100-yard dash or the 100-meter dash, you're full speed ahead because it's not very far. You jump out, you going 100 miles an hour. Same thing with the longer races. With a marathon, I can't even imagine the pace that they have to go at. A lot of that's true with your money. A lot of people go out and they put money in investments, or they put money away, and they aren't clear on their objectives. And those objectives really dictate what product they need to have. Do they need to have money now? Do they need to have money, in 10 years? Is this a long-term play? All the things that go with it. So let's go down that line a little bit, Kimberly, as we talk this through. So give us some of the things that we talked about earlier, and we'll go off this.
Yeah, I think it's a very important conversation. Zach and I had a meeting yesterday, day before, with a guy, and we were sitting there and we were talking to him, and he was asking us what we did and how does that work, and what do we see. And we've talked about this before, on Zooms and everywhere, but people are not prepared to retire because they're just saving. Most people are only saving in their 401ks, right? They don't know how much they should have. They don't know where that money should go. They don't really have a plan. They're just putting in whatever the match is or whatever that automated payment is. And really, that's what we do, is we help them create that plan, and we decide, do you need this money now? Do you need this money later? We were talking about it earlier, and I was watching a video for a reverse mortgage strategy, just trying to learn about it earlier. And it's the same thing that you talk about all the time as far as climbing Mount Everest. Okay, now, we've spent our entire life hopefully amassing as much wealth as we can. I don't know that I believe that most people actually do that, but saving as much as we're ever going to save. And now we have to figure out how to distribute it on the back end. And I think that's the biggest part that people forget. When we had Tom Hegna come to our convention several years ago, that was one of his biggest stories, was paychecks and playchecks, right? And how do we make sure that we have a paycheck every single year, every single week, every single month for the rest of our life? What does that look like? And so once we get into the retirement side of it and we start those distributions, that's really where that active planning on, okay, how do I make all this work now? It should have started before, right? Like now, when you're young, when you're early, to say, how am I growing this and how am I going to distribute it? But if we're late to the game, we at least have to figure out how to have them distribute it to themselves so they don't run out of money. And that comes from the rate of return risk in the market. It comes from taxation. It comes from cost of living. It comes from healthcare. It comes from all of these pieces that we need to look at and be aware of.
One of the things that you mentioned was the whole Mount Everest example. Just for those of you that are not familiar with that, let's get into the conversation of about when you're looking at putting money away. There's the accumulation phase, which is obviously where you're growing your money, and then there's the distribution phase. That's where you're taking your money out. The fact that people don't know how to look at those two things separately is really where you get a lot of confusion on a lot of so-called experts. If and we use the phrase of, it's not what you earn, it's what you get, it's what you keep. And those aren't just trite phrases. Those are tried and true. And what happens with the example literally of Mount Everest is that, you spend a lot of planning, a lot of hoopla, a lot of people filming it, of going up Mount Everest. And that is obviously, it takes a certain amount of energy. But if you climb Mount Everest, you still have a whole nother set of issues, and that's getting down Mount Everest. They don't come pick you up with a helicopter. You don't go down in the car. You have to come down that mountain. And there are as many treacherous things that go with that as there are on the other side. And so if you're not prepared to go down, obviously you could die. There are very serious consequences. And so here, same thing's true. But many of you are familiar with Zach's presentation of Brother A and Brother B, where he goes through and talks about how, we'll go in and get that. We'll go. One is go back in the archives and look at it. Number two is we'll go over it again over the next week or two. But basically, it shows somebody that if somebody used an IUL or if someone used a 401k, the person in the 401k would end up with more net money in most cases. But net money doesn't, you can't spend net money. No, that's gross money. I'm sorry. You can't spend gross money, which is the gross amount. You can only spend what you are able to take out. And so let's just kind of walk through that conversation. You get a lot of people that look at the Roth IRA scenario, and they'll only look 5 or 10 years down the road. And they'll say, well, it looks to be a little further ahead at this point. What are some of the things, Zach and Kimberly, that they aren't looking at?
Well, the big thing, like Kimberly mentioned, the holistic plan, right? And that's one of the things that you have to explain to folks when you sit down with them, is that because we tout ourselves as a one-stop shop, they need to understand that that's what we are. One of the biggest things that you can do is explain that if you want a Roth IRA, we have it. If you want money in the market, we have people that can do that. We're going to look at your situation and your goals, and we're going to tell you what we recommend. Ultimately, if you choose that route, we can still go that way, or you choose differently than what we do. So the concept of the holistic plan is important. More than anything, it's important to understand the difference between accumulation and distribution phases of retirement, because you can accumulate all you want, but as we've seen with the 4% rule, which is the traditional rule that says if you want your retirement to last for 30 years, you can't take any more than 4% of it out. If you got $1 million sitting there, that's only 40 grand a year. That's not going to be enough for most people. And most people we talk to don't have $1 million. So that's the things that you have to be able to explain is, yeah, sure, great. If you compare a Roth side by side with an IUL and you look 10 years down the road, you're going to have a hypothetical return on the Roth that's going to be higher than the hypothetical return in the IUL. And so it's going to look better right there. But the Roth is also more than likely exposed to the downturns in the market where the IUL is not. So you're comparing apples and oranges. So when you look at those two comparisons, the biggest one though is if I take those two, well, there's two really big ones. Number one, if I want to or need to save more than $7,000 a year to retire the way I want to retire, I cannot do that in a Roth. Roth 401k is another situation. We can kick that bucket here in a few minutes if you guys have questions about it. But I can't put more than that in a Roth each year. An IUL is uncapped. As long as I have enough insurance to keep it tax-free and keep it under that umbrella like we talk about, I can put as much as I want to in there. So when you're talking to people planning for retirement down the road, the biggest thing they have to understand is what tools work the right way for them. I have a ton of clients that have a max funded IUL that meets their insurance needs, meets that tax-free bucket down the road. They also take the match in their 401k, and then there's extra money, right? I have $2,000 a month. I don't need to put it all into an IUL to make my plan work. Guess what? We can put $7,000 if they don't make too much. That's the other thing about a Roth. So a lot of people, when they want to compare a Roth to an IUL, once you get to that income threshold where you make too much to use a Roth, and it changes all the time. I want to say it's like married filing jointly, it's like $250,000 combined. An individual, if you make more than like 120, 130, Google, Chat GPT, all those things will answer that specifically for you. But I tell people there's caps. So a lot of times you're dealing with high net worth people that are looking at dollars and cents, and they can't use a Roth. It's not even an option for them. But so caps in what you can contribute, caps in how much you can make and use the tool. Those are very important things to understand. But then finally, we talk about drawdown, and the reason I use a comparison between a 401k and an IUL is because the way the instrument behaves when you take money out of it. In an IUL, if you use it properly for tax-free income, you're going to borrow in the form of participating loans. So you're borrowing money from yourself, but what that allows is for that entire cash value bucket to continue to participate in the growth and the upsides of the market, which allows your pot of money to go so much farther. If I take money out of my Roth IRA, right, it's gone. When I take it out, it's a withdrawal. So that money is not only spent, but it's no longer growing in the market. When I take it out of my IUL, it's a loan. Proceeds from a loan are not taxable. The loan doesn't have to be paid back until my death from the death benefit. And the entire pot of money is still growing following those indices, whatever your crediting method is that you've got selected. So understanding how to articulate a Roth IRA is great, but it's an apple. An IUL is great, but it's an orange. So when you compare apples and oranges, it's hard to draw those parallels. So if I'm just looking at cash value 10 years down the road, or surrender value of my IUL and cash value of my hypothetical Roth IRA, a lot of times there's going to be more cash because there's zero cost of insurance. But then I ask people this question. Okay, great. So you go for the Roth because you don't want to buy the insurance. So you start putting $7,000 a year into that Roth, and something happens to you next year and you get hit by a bus. What happens? Your family gets $7,000. If we were using the IUL, your family for that same contribution would get $350,000, $400,000 in death benefit. What happens if you get a diagnosis, right? We're planning long term. And I think that that's the biggest key, not product to product. The biggest key with your clients in the relationship is for them to understand whatever it is, if it's a Roth IRA, if it's money under management, if it's annuities, that can overcome a lot of their fear that you're selling for your pocket or you're selling what you have to sell. When you tell them we can do it all, right? So I'm just going to tell you what I think is best for you, and then we'll walk through your concerns. We'll go through your questions and answers. And ultimately, if you decide you don't want the insurance and you're capable and you can contribute to it and it does work for your income bracket and all those kind of things, we'll set you up with a Roth. Fair enough? So I think those are the real important things to think about. Jody, did that answer what your question was about that?
Absolutely, discuss and thoughts on that, and have everyone understand. Um, Here's something I want to make sure everybody understands, that this always comes down to human nature, and it's how we have the conversation. Whenever the market adjusts, if someone had 500,000 in the market and it drops to say 400,000, if a person calls you, your first question to them, one is to care and listen to them because it's their money. Sometimes we forget that it's the client's money. It's not our money. But you want to ask them this, say, hey, look, have your objectives changed? Ask them that question. It should be the first question you ask them. Have your objectives changed? And if they're like, no, say, okay, so you're putting this away for the long term. Everything's okay. And walk from there. And be clear, reminding them of what their objectives are that they're trying to get off that money. That it's hey, if someone does, let's just say someone looks at an illustration and sees that in 10 to 15 years, if that they may have more money on a sheet of paper. But what happens if you take money out? If you take money out early, the growth of that money is got penalties and taxes, even with a Roth IRA. The basis you could take out, but the growth of that still is subject to some penalties and taxes. So you have those things. We're going to talk in a minute a little bit more about the very back end of the situation, because it's where it really flies. Understand that we're in a properly structured and max funded IUL is a wonderful product. Now, both of those things and a properly explained, fully funded, and properly positioned policy is as good as it gets. And where it really flies, where it hums, you get a good car, you get my car, or you get, Zach and Kimberly's car. Those cars can do some damage. Only problem is we don't really ever get them out to do what they're capable of doing. We're probably doing a disservice to our own car. But that car, the faster it goes, the better it performs, because that's what it's for, right? And so it's the same thing here, is that when you get into those years to where it really takes off, and then you start getting money out of these plans, that's the distribution phase is where it absolutely becomes a superpower. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But understanding these things, and let's kind of switch a little bit for a minute before we come back to this. Let's talk about the tax mentality of people understanding taxes and the impact of taxes on that. So Kimberly, I know you had that one thing you sent me. Do we want to review it for a second?
We can review it live together.
Absolutely. Let's
Make
do
it
it.
up as we go. Hold on a second. Let me find it. I thought I had it open. Here we go. I think this is it.
Also, as she's pulling that up, one of the numbers we're looking at is the fact that the majority of the huge wealth transfer that's about to take place. What percentage did it say?
I think it said 54 trillion. Let me look at it and see. 54 trillion in the great wealth transfer
Is going to go to
widowed spouses. Older women set to inherit most of $54 trillion in the great wealth transfer to widowed spouses. An estimated 54 trillion is expected to pass on to spouses during the so-called Great Wealth Transfer, with 40 trillion of it going to women who are baby boomers or older, the research shows, because of obviously male life expectancy. Older women whose spouses have traditionally handled investments and long-term planning may want to make sure they at least know some basic financial information, advisors say. And most women, at least at this moment, the majority of their wealth comes to them, or the financial decisions on their wealth comes to them after the death of their spouse. Women live longer than men, and so you better go get friends with some
Yeah.
old women.
Yeah, so I want to talk about strategically for that for just a second, and that is cultivate. You got to cultivate that market. It is just so you're clear. That is a very, it's kind of like a those houses that the government comes in and says this is a government or it's a monument, whatever, or this is a protected species or whatever. That's the way you got to understand that when you go to the senior market. It is a protected group, and it has been Roth, froth with predatory people for years. So if you're going to go to that market, you need to be cultivating your trustworthiness. You need to be trustworthy. You need to know how to deal in that marketplace. I know Roy Hadaway, who I'll actually have on here helping train in a few weeks. We were talking the other day, and when he's with a senior market, getting ready to do an annuity, he spends as much time with their kids
Mhm.
as he does with them, cultivating directly relationship with them. Zach?
The number one reason that advisors lose clients when the husband dies is because they've never paid attention to or spent time in a relationship cultivating with kids, parents, everybody. That's the number one mistake a lot of traditional advisors make is they might take him out to play golf all the time, but once he's gone, the rest of the family doesn't know him, know what he's done. They just have all these statements. So make sure you include, especially when you're dealing with people. And we've got a lot of folks on our team that are dealing with aging parents and they're dealing with decision making and all those kind of things. So as an advisor, you need to make sure that the kids are on board. Now, if the parents say, don't talk to my daughter about this, you got not much you can say, but you can easily say, hey, do you want me to explain this to your kids or to make sure everybody's on the same page? Because you want to be managing that money through generations. And you also want to be getting referrals and those kind of things outside of that client. But cultivating relationships with all people that benefit or are dependent on that asset is very important for maintaining long-term relationships.
Absolutely, and also the way that he's able to do that, really, regardless of what they want, is that if they are the beneficiary, they have to be contacted on these annuities and things. So it helps them from a business perspective. But really, don't understand. You if you go in and haul off and try to cultivate that, you've almost got to prove trustworthiness because you're going to be looked at as not being trustworthy coming in. That's just how it is. And so you have to earn that over time. That's why you recruit your way there. You build relationships through recruiting and also over time. And those of you that are in Florida, obviously, it's even more watched there, but it also is much more opportunity there. I know Debbie. I think Debbie's father is actually in the villages down there, if I recall right. And I know, that there's lots of opportunity in Florida for the whole wealth transfer, because whatever the percentage of that 50 trillion is moving that will be in Florida would be staggering. I would imagine it's a high percentage of that number. So that is a great market. It's an opportunity to serve as well as to go out and have and build a great practice for yourself. And then it becomes generational because then you can go, if you do the right job, open up all the business that can go to those children and all the things that go with that. So, all right, thanks. So back to the other point on the taxation issues, Kimberly.
Yeah, Gail, you are unmuted. Did you want to say something?
I did actually. I just wanted to say something really quickly about everything recently that I've personally been going through with my mom recently passed away. I'm so sorry. Um, but about a year ago, Al's dad passed away, and we're in the process of setting up his mom's trust. Fortunately, we did that with my mom at the end of last year. So we're not having to deal with probate. I'm so sorry.
We
What
say,
we do
I'm
is
sorry.
so valuable. So I just wanted to share that with you. And as far as target market of people to, I'm 54 years old. My siblings are anywhere from, I'm the youngest, 54 to 65. My mom was 82. And I just think that generation and those people, not only do we, so a lot of my peers obviously are about the same age. So it's having these conversations with them, with the people that we know and love. And a conversation I had yesterday with a friend of mine, worked at McDonald's as kids together when we were 16, was, I'm talking to her about her own plan, but also her as a recruit, is that the first people that I want to have a conversation with is her two daughters who are college age. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Thank you for your patience, and I apologize.
Thank you for trusting us with that conversation, because I got to imagine that's one of the first times you've actually said that phrase out loud. You know, that, and we love you and appreciate you so much. And we have others. We have Alexis Perella. His father passed away yesterday, and I think we had also Rusty as part of this team also that had their father pass away. So we love you. You mean everything to us. But what we do is very important, and I'm thankful for the integrity of this team. We have great people on this team. So thanks. All righty, Kimberly. Follow
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, follow that. Thanks, Gail. I'll be happy to. I'm just kidding.
That was
Um,
Sheila, by the way, it's Rusty's mother, not
yeah,
dad. Thank you.
Rusty's mom. I just have a quick question, Gail. When you did your mom's trust and all, you did that through net law, correct?
I did. I've with my mom, we did hers through net law. I've got another client where actually a little different scenario. So with them, I referred to an estate planning attorney. With my mom, we set up a revocable living trust, and obviously, I am not an estate planning attorney. She passed away. We moved her into an assisted living facility at the beginning of January. She was only there for a couple months before going into the hospital and then moving her into hospice. And um, with my other client, she's in a nursing home and in a Medicaid bed. So we're in the process. I'm trying to figure out a single premium immediate annuity so that we can do her Medicaid spend down of half of their liquid assets. With them, it's an irrevocable living trust is what they need. So a little different. You can also do that through net law. It is an additional expense. With net law, you can only do a revocable living trust for the $600, in the will and the medical and financial directives. So it gets a lot of things done. It serves a lot of purpose, and it just so happens my mom passed away before, because with Medicaid, there's a 5-year look back. So if you don't have it, if you don't switch it from revocable to irrevocable, these are all things I've learned in the last literally few months. That doesn't start that 5-year look back. So heads up about that. And so things like that, net law can answer. They can help guide you through that process. So, yeah, that's just kind of the experience that we walked through, but fortunately not having to deal with probate. And you also have to fund the trust appropriately. If you have minor children, you want to make the beneficiary the trust. If you have a house, obviously, you need to do a quick claim deed and deed the house, into the trust. So,
And
yeah.
Mark said last week or whenever he was on, they give you all of those instructions, right? And walk you through step by step by step how to do that.
Yeah, they do. They do. And you can call as many times as you need, call, chat, or email. Yeah, with
Okay.
all of that. So just it's takes a little bit of time, but yeah, you got to get it done.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that. And obviously, real life example of a product that we have that benefits, that was super necessary. So thank you.
Thank you. And then maybe one or two quick points off that, and then we'll turn it over to Mauricio.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just pull this up. The first thing that I'm going to tell you guys is be curious, right? Like Jody said when he started out, study your craft, practice every single day, be curious. With all of you guys having your insurance license and all of the emails that you get from the insurance carriers, and if you, even outside of HGI, those people are going to bombard you with emails. I'm not saying read every single one of them, but on your Facebook, wherever, when you see something that talks about something financial, be curious, read it, see what it says, ask ChatGPT, tell me the difference between, right? I will have, Jody and I were talking about this earlier, ChatGPT's answers are going to depend on the question that you ask it. So be very clear about that, right? When we're dealing with clients and they say, well, ChatGPT says, well, what question did you ask it? Right? Because that's going to matter. It's going to feed you the answers based off the question that you ask. And I think that's important to know. Zach?
I was just going to say, ChatGPT is designed, or any of those things, it's designed to be your friend. It's designed for you to like it. It's designed to give you the information slanted in the way you've asked for it. So if you ask a question comparing even a Roth and an IUL, it's going to give you, based on how you ask it, the pros of the Roth and the concerns of an IUL. So just know that's what she means. It's literally designed so that you start to think it's your friend and you go to it more often, because it gives you information that makes
Zach
you
has
happy.
to tell me he's not my friend, but I really think he is my friend. I need to name him.
Yeah, we can just kind of put a pin on this point
Okay.
today with this, but staying on this piece, because I think it's very important. What happened the other day was that I asked ChatGPT a question regarding Roth IRA versus, other things, and it pulled it up as favorable. And then the more questions I asked, it started slanting what it was saying. And then finally, I said, "Why did you not put an IUL over or over Roth IRA?" And it came back and it said, "Well, it's because the costs, you don't know what the costs are inside of the thing, inside of the IUL." Then finally, I said, "What about factoring in the back end of this when the money's coming out?" Well, then all of a sudden it slanted the whole thing to the IUL. And so it's very interesting. Matter of fact, if you would just articulate, Zach, the phrase of, what happens on where you are looking at the IUL versus the I keep saying ChatGPT, that's not a product, an IUL versus a SEP IRA. The thing that really sets everything apart is at the very end when it comes time to take the money out. Maybe articulate that again, like you told me earlier about, half the money and twice the time, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a slide in that presentation that I do that goes by the numbers, comparing a traditional 401k to an IUL. And bottom line is it lasts longer. The income at an equal distribution rate is going to last longer in the IUL because you're not withdrawing it. So we talk about how the instrument performs in the drawdown phase of retirement. So if you really want to talk to somebody about income planning, not lump sum planning. We're not saving to buy RVs and boats and motorhomes. We're saving for income. And that's the real distinction. If you want to save this so you can grow it as fast as you can, so you can buy lump sum transactions with it, there's a bank on yourself concept you can use, right? If you, instead of borrowing from the bank, once that's there in the IUL. But ultimately, if growth is your only concern, you're going to grow more in a non-insurance based asset. But if income is your concern, it's not about what you have at the end of the day. It's about what you can take out of it every month and it not collapse, it not go away. And the IUL is going to beat a traditional standard withdrawal from anything, because you're able to borrow the money from it, not withdraw it. So when you take out that money, it just goes down, 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 down. So we can compare illustrations and do all that at another time. But just be confident in understanding that's the question. Okay, do you want more income for more years, or do you want a higher number that you can look at on the sheet and smile about it? I think in my presentation, it's 700 and something thousand in the 401k and 500,000 in cash value in the IUL at the same time after 30 years. And that 401k pays back over $100,000 in taxes. The IUL doesn't have any taxes that come out of it. The 401k is completely liquidated in 17 years. The IUL pays them out the same amount of money for 30 years and is still going. That's what people really need to understand.
Absolutely. And then finally, the last thing I want to show on this before we let Mauricio have just a couple of minutes to make a good point is that we have next week here in Atlanta, we're having a program that we call the Financial Matrix. It will be at the home office here. And it's just what the system doesn't want you to know about money. Is 7 to 9 next Tuesday night live here. And it's going to have beforehand, it's going to have some hors d'oeuvres served from 6 to 7 for a networking power hour. And just some of the things we're going to cover is mastering the be your own bank strategy, what that can mean, tied into some of the things that Zach just went over. Protect and strengthen your retirement. Start young, take control, build tax-free wealth, and then finally discover the new rules of wealth for women. We got a great program lined up. Very excited about it. And so get your people there. We'll be here in Atlanta. So I want to have you there. If you want to get a copy of that, let me know. We're going to put that back out to the team. And so, Mauricio, give it to you for the last few minutes.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that we've been working really, really hard at is the transference of the knowledge, right? There's certainly skill, like if you listen to Kimberly and Zach, just their level of understanding the industry and how to speak in analogies that create those epiphanies in the client that moves them to move their money to their strategy. It takes time, right? And we're excited about where Abacus is and where it's going, but listening to the users, which is you, how to simplify, like how do I learn to explain the things that the tool is producing for me? And I want to take advantage to also mention, I'm not going to mention a name, but obviously tomorrow we've got a meeting with a very high likelihood of maybe moving $600,000 to an annuity because of how the report was generated and then explained to the client. Let me get to it. And I also want to pick up from where Zach was talking about market risk and tax risk. Like there's a lot of different risks. The system actually, I'm going to show you today, if I may, in the next 8 minutes. There's actually more than 10 risks that the client has, but we do have a report to educate them on 10 risks. So I'm going to just kind of show you some tools you can use to address two of the main risks people may be more aware of, which is market risk, because they experience volatility, and they also know that eventually they'll have to pay the taxes. They're betting on the fact that it'll stay the same or lower, but even though they know it's actually going to be higher. And so here's what I mean. I think I'll share my screen. So inside of your Abacus platform, we have, I'm going to pick on Shen, by the way. Remember that every time you log into clients, there is demos, F&A demos that we have there for you. They have the demo tag in there. And I have these demos so that I don't have to, whenever I'm doing this, I not disclose people's information. But I'm going to pick on Mr. Shen here. And if I have Mr. Shen's full F&A, and I want to have the conversation about risk, right? Market risk is one of those risks. And then we have tax risk. But if I wanted to explain to him the market risk, which what it means is when it comes to properly diversifying, most people, when they think diversification, they think it's just the asset allocation in their portfolio. They're like, well, I'm very well diversified. Until you remind them that even that level of diversification still lost them 40% in 2008 and 9. Until you remind them that that level of diversification still maybe lost their portfolio 30, 40% in 2000. So no amount of diversification traditionally can save them from a systemic type of risk market or collapse. And so that's where the rule of 100 comes in, right? Where you say, well, to truly diversify, you have to go above and beyond just asset allocation. And that's where the hybrid products come in, which is the IUL and the FIA. And so rule of 100 says that if you take your age, or the subtraction of your age from the 100 should be the amount to have at risk. The rest we need to protect. And that obviously could change every year or every 5 years. But you can explain that. Like I like the dynamic, that the dynamism of being able to be in front of a client and just show them this. But some people like to have a nice report, and so the PDF that we can generate here. And by the way, because I know Tim is he's always watching everything we do, and one of the things that, with Abacus is we made compliant the base and the most important thing. It's not an afterthought. It's not oh, we'll add compliance later. That's actually now as the foundation to this thing, and every disclaimer and then all the language. But needless to say, so we have the sort of the proper three world of money sort of report that is generated, where you can basically sit down and be able to tell the client. It'll be all personalized, and it shows their current allocation coming in to see you and what is the rule of 100. It's not that it's your recommendation. It's almost like the rule of 72. It's not, you didn't make up the rule of 72. It's like gravity. That's just physics, right? That's gravity is gravity. So the rule of 100 is obviously the smartest minds in finance, just like they made the rule of the 4% rule and the rule of 72, right? Those are proven. There's like these million Monte Carlo simulations that prove and support those rules. So, needless to say, you can see here, right? We're going from current, this is where you currently are, and to reduce your risk, we may want to align more to the rule of 100. And what that does is basically is saying that you take money that's in the bank, right, earning less than like 1%, and you take that down to your three months of expenses, and then you have $1.1 million in the market. You may want to bring that down to 691 so you can fund the 588 that would put you right in line with the rule of 100. So you can explain that, and it's very educational. It explains what the rule of protection is, what are the vehicles that are there, what is the hybrid world, what is the world of potential. And it also, the way that the language is, for those of us that are not Series 65, we have to be very careful in there, right? You can't recommend them to liquidate any securities of any kind for them to fund things. So if you read through this, I want to invite Tim to actually read also through this. You'll see it's so educational in nature, and this walks that line so smoothly that it's like best practices. So best practices, right? There's a way to, let me give you an example just for us. Um, if you're going to fund an IUL, typically you're not going to grab money from the IRA to fund the IUL. You're going to use money that's maybe in the bank or in taxable, in what's called the taxable buckets, because that you're taking money from, let's say, a taxable environment to a tax deferred, potentially tax free with the withdrawal options. And then best practice is that if the client's moving money and they're going to work with their financial advisor to decide what they're going to liquidate to fund the IUL, most likely they're going to look at the bond portion of the portfolio to fund the not the IUL but the FIA, the index annuity, right? But it educates also. The report is so, I know we don't have the time to really read through it, so I'm just showing you the look and feel of it so you can go through it and be able to or interpret something like this. Now, if you're looking at the PDF and you're saying, well, but I still don't know how to explain something like that, you have every calculator now. You will begin to start seeing meeting slides, and the meeting slides comes with narration. And narration is for you. This is not really for the client per se. It's more for you. When you download the PowerPoint presentation, on the lower right-hand side, you have a speaker here that it gives you. It's like if you want to sing a good karaoke song, you first listen to the song. We have the speaker notes, so we have the lyrics down here, right? When you're listening, you want to see the lyrics of a song. We have your lyrics. So your lyrics, if you just you would understand it here. But if you look at the context of the actual audio as spoken by a 30-year veteran that understands every angle to it, it sounds something like this.
David, this one picture tells the whole story. On the left is where your $1,320,000 sits today, spread across the three worlds. On the right is where the three worlds blueprint positions it. Notice how the green protection circle grows The amber hybrid circle gets properly funded, and the red potential circle is right-sized for your pre-retirement phase. Everything we cover today leads back to this one comparison. By the end of our time together, this picture on the right is exactly where we want your money to be.
Right. So you explain. So this gives you a much better picture, and it's made to them. It's not a generic thing. Every person is going to be custom made so that you know how to do this karaoke,
Here's the
this
honest
financial
truth,
karaoke.
Dave. Most investors have their money allocated in a way that feels comfortable, but is actually dangerous for their stage of life. You have 90% in what we call the world of potential, full market exposure. For someone in the pre-retirement phase, the blueprint says that number should be 52%. That gap is exactly what we're going to fix today. Here's the honest truth, David.
So anyways, you'll listen to this because we're running out of time, right? But every one of these calculators, just like this one, is going to give you that. And I think one of the most important ones that everybody's learning and they're trying to get get a handle on is a financial needs report. And so the financial needs report does a couple of things very uniquely. And I want to show you guys what this is, because this is really what HGI promotes, which is we're going to show you the 6 steps to financial independence, which is understanding your cash flow, debt management, right? Emergency fund, proper protection, how to build wealth, and if you have children, how to properly fund them for either going to start a business or they're going to go to college, and the state preservation, right? So sometimes this is probably the number one song that all of us in here need to learn how to explain. And we don't want to intimidate even those agents that are new in how to actually have this conversation, because this is what will happen. Your credibility is going to go so high that you're going to walk out of the kitchen table, out of the Zoom meeting, instead of just selling a term or an IUL, you're actually going to be able to refer the money to AUM so you can start building your AUM side of the business to when you get your 65. And then you're going to sell 4 times more insurance, permanent, term, and all the other products that we have on the side if you know how to explain this. Now, here's 2 things, actually 3 things you can do. This also generates an audio narration with meeting slides now. Before, we only provide the PowerPoint with the speaker notes, but now you actually have the narration. And it's amazing if you do that. So you can go in there, do it. Takes 2 minutes to generate it. Takes 30 seconds without the audio. But also you can generate for you how do like a generate agent coaching audio. I'm going to generate the client report audio. And then I guess I'm going to generate both of them. Hopefully you have a few more minutes to stick around here, because I think this, when we're talking about how can I learn at light speed, and how can I also train my people, because I may not have enough time in the day to be there 24/7. They will learn the biggest lessons are definitely going to be in front of a client. There's no replacement or substitute for that. But walking in and understanding the lingo and understanding, what these 7 steps mean and why they make such a big difference to leave everybody better than we found them, is critical. Now, the faster we learn, then we'll be the organization that is the most educated and prepared in the entire industry. Why? Because we're leveraging technologies in ways that most are going to take years to get there. And I'm telling you, you could put 200 developers with $200 million and they're not going to get here, because the developers aren't in the field, and the field most likely aren't developers. And so they're going to be spinning and spinning for months and months, maybe years, to try to get it right.
Hey, Mauricio.
Yeah.
Do that again, guys. I want you to hear what he just said, because excuse me, I think it's lost on you guys. The reason that no one can duplicate this is like you just said, is that the field's not developers and the developers aren't in the field. That's what makes this such a unique proposition. I mean, Mauricio couldn't pull this off without obviously the tools we have today, but somebody else can't pull this off without him. So we're so blessed right now. Matter of fact, honestly, I just want to tell you, I think this call showcases you the power of the team that we have today. I mean, the Odies are just phenomenal, and what you're bringing to the table right now and what Tim brings to the table. I love this call. I think it's as good as any call in the industry.
Well, and I got to say, as you remember, Jody, I mean, this is a team a work from the first concept of how to simplify a presentation, which Rory's participated and Kimberly's participated, and you're pushing on the idea. So I just did my part, you know. So, um, but you're absolutely right. So we gotta take advantage of this, and this is going to continue to be polished. And with the feedback from you guys, we're gonna arrive at a place where we're going to be main thing is servicing the consumer at the highest level possible. And that's going to bring retention of agents, retention of clients, referrals, everything. You know what I mean? So it is like a domino effect of positive things that will just come from a field force, a sales force that is truly cutting edge. And without the technology, it would just take so long to get to that. I just can't transfer like 30 years of experience, or Zach and Kimberly, they can't just transfer that to your brain in an evening. But check this out. If I wanted to have the client facing explanation, how am I, if I was speaking to a client, then this explains the cash flow.
Your financial professional personally prepared this financial needs analysis for you. To help you understand each section clearly, they've enabled an audio presentation of your report, read by a voice tool they use with their clients. I
want to make something notice, full disclosure, full compliance. So it's, you know what I mean? So that's key.
Your financial professional personally.
All right. So then it goes through each one of these. Again, you can go and just produce it.
Let's talk about debt. And I want to reframe how you think about it before we get into your specific numbers. Not all debt is equal. Your mortgage is a tool that builds equity and carries a relatively low interest rate. We focus on consumer debt, credit cards, auto loans, personal lines of credit, because that's the high interest debt that quietly drains your financial momentum. Your total debt is $485,000, broken into $30,000 in consumer debt and $455,000 in your mortgage. Your debt-to-income ratio, the percentage of your income that goes toward debt payments, is 112 of 59.0%. Financial professionals generally consider anything under 36% to be healthy. At 1259.0%, a significant portion of your monthly income is going toward past spending instead of your future. The good news.
All right. We don't have the time to listen to it all, but we're just going to go through each and all of these different things. And as you listen to, we'll train the TTS to say more 12.6 instead of 12.6691, just so that it more, but you get the idea. And so what you can do, because there's two things. We only have this opportunity once a week, so just bear with me, because there's two things that I think are critical for you to know that are already in here for you to do. Yeah, the meeting slides now come with AI narration, and it's amazing, even better than this one. And if you want to have a different angle, like I want to generate the audio that actually trains me how to present it. You have that blue one, which is going to generate a different, it's the same content, it's just delivered to you as if you had a 30-year veteran helping you understand how to actually explain each and every one of the steps. Okay, now that'll take about 30 seconds or so, but here's what I also want you to see. Whenever you feel like you want to share this with the client, I have done things like this in the past where clients wants to have sort of just as what you said, an illustration in many times, right? In many cases, you're sending the illustration, but this is educational. So this will be a great experience for the client when you produce the report. And by the way, here's the agent coaching. So now you can actually click on each one of these, and it's going to teach you how to actually interpret each of the pages. But because we generated the audio for the client, when we click on share and we get that share link, right? We get that share link, which is going to come up right now. we got this share link, and the client, for security reasons, they, that report no longer just appear because anybody that would send this to could see it. So obviously we have delicate information. So the client needs to provide their last name, date of birth, and zip code, right? They would know this information to open that report. So I think we did Mr. Chen, and I think he's 0922 of what I can remember. And I think the zip code for him is I can't, I'm not going to remember, but let me see in full detail. So the zip code is 3309. So it's 3309. So when you send this to the client, no, what is it? 3039? Oh my God. It's 3039. Okay. 3039. So when the client opens it, they see what you prepared and they have an audio where they can actually understand what you have here, what they're looking at. Now, when they're comparing the experience that they get from any other agent, they're not going to get so detailed, something so beautiful and so beautifully explained to them as they go and navigate. They're going to walk out of this presentation like, wow, this Kimberly just did that, right? Or Mauricio just did that. It explains every single
David,
concept.
your emergency fund is the financial safety net that protects everything else you're building. Without it, one unexpected event, a medical bill, a job disruption, a major repair, can unravel months or years of progress. With it, you have the stability to handle life's surprises without touching your retirement savings or going deeper into debt. Here's where you stand. You currently have $355,000 in liquid reserves, which covers 17.6 months of your expenses. Based on your income, your family situation, and how stable your monthly expenses are, the recommended target is $90,565, representing 4.5 months of full coverage.
I mean, you guys see the clarity of this? I'm put an open and the question. Do you understand how this is phenomenal? It's tailor made for every single client. So whenever you feel you need to use a tool, it's, you could use that. It's educational. It's not recommending any product yet. It's just basically teaching them, what the gaps are and how well are they in terms of the debt. And a lot of these conversations, most agents never even touch because they don't see it as an income producing activity. Like, how do I get into debt management? I don't even know how to even get them out of debt. So I'm not going to have that conversation. Or what the emergency fund, how am I even going to make money with the emergency fund, right? Now, this whole thing actually is what drives them towards you. You become the magnet because no other agent out there, all they're doing is sending an IUL illustration. Selling, not educating. And I understand educating is not selling, so we got to find that or telling is not selling. So we're still selling, but you guys know what I'm saying, that the consumer, it's so sophisticated now that you've got to raise the bar in the experience and what you're delivering for them. Okay.
Right.
And so I know I'm way off time, but I think those were the main two things. Jody, maybe one other thing finally is when you go to clients, people ask for this, that if you want to send your client, if you find a client that you want them to fill out the FNA, you can now send the client the full FNA, the simple FNA, and the R&P gap. You just send it to them, and they're gonna get a text message. And the way that they actually fill this FNA is so gamified. It adds a lot of features that keeps them so engaged. It's not a boring form. As a matter of fact, send it to yourself and then tell me how much fun you actually had completing the whole thing and how the FNA is cheerleading you along the way, telling you, this is where most people quit, and you're not going to quit because, and so we took a page from License Quest to make it a very interactive, fun way for clients to feel it like, man, I had a great time actually going through this FNA. And when they finish, you have a full FNA ready to just produce a report.
Hey, Mauricio, real quick on
Yeah.
that, because I know there's different camps on this. You know what I mean? There's some people who are
Yeah.
like, I would never sit at FNA because I want to go through that process. And then there's others, like last night you were in the bot with me, and one of our new guys who was in the industry said, oh, I love the fact I could just send this to the client and they do it themselves. So if you don't want to send it to them, do it as an agent. If you do want to send it to them, send it to them. So, but do go through the process on your own. So thank you for everything today. Doug. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Get people here to Atlanta. Let's fill this place up. Have a great client night. Onward and upward. Great job. Have a great week. Thanks, Zach and Kimberly.
Thank you, guys.